Microplastics are everywhere. It's hard, maybe nearly impossible to completely eliminate them, but there are ways to reduce them in your life and your body.
I don't know if you saw this. One study found that on the average, people could be ingesting approximately 5 grams of plastic without knowing it every single week. So, 9 News medical expert Dr. Coley back in the mix with us this morning to tackle this topic. I feel like we should start with what the heck are microplastics? Your definition, doctor, please.
Yes, these tiny little plastic particles, less than the size of a sesame seed, so less than 5 millimeters, that usually come from breakdown of bigger plastics in our clothes, in our tires, in our food packaging, what have you. And as you pointed out, our consumption of these microplastics has increased about 5 to 6-fold over the last 30 years, and we're now finding that they're deposited in our organs. So if you look at autopsy specimens of people's brains, they have enough plastic to make a whole plastic spoon.
Oh my goodness.
They're in the placenta, they're in your lungs, they're in your testicles, they're everywhere. They're in your stool.
Jeez.
So we really ought to start being mindful of how much we're consuming these plastics.
These are harmful microplastics, right?
We don't know yet, Corey. So we think they might be harmful for 2 reasons. One, because plastics, as you know, are contaminated with chemicals, right? They have, chemicals on them, solvents and such, and they usually come from breakdown of something industrial. So that's one of the reasons, the chemical toxicity. But the plastics themselves don't dissolve. So they deposit in the tissue. They can, live inside your body. They can be in your bloodstream. They can create inflammation. They can create hormonal disruptions. They've even been linked to cardiovascular disease. So we think they're harmful. We haven't yet proven it, but certainly the fact that they're accumulating in our tissues, in our kids, in our placentas, we really ought to start thinking about how we can limit that exposure.
Is this the scariest segment we've ever
done? I know. I have listened to so many podcasts about this because it's like nearly impossible to get rid of them, but there are ways. Yes.
Yeah, they're all around us. They're in our food and they're in the air that we breathe, our indoor air. They're in our clothes, they're in our cosmetics. So we have to start thinking about our plastic consumption every single day.
Where can I go to avoid microplastics? No, I'm not asking that question, but you may have mentioned some already, but I think we should cover some of the biggest sources for microplastics in our everyday life.
So water, and of course bottled water is worse than tap water.
Put this away, please.
But tap water has them too. So put a filter on your tap because that does help reduce exposure to some of those microplastics. If you're drinking in a water bottle, don't leave it in the car, let it warm up. Every time you screw the cap on and off, you inoculate 553 microplastic particles into that liter of water. So try not to manipulate the plastic too much. So that's a big source. Food packaging is the other one. We've talked about eating fresh foods, but even our fruits, our vegetables, our fresh meats, they all have plastic. Even the salt that we have has plastic. So try to get less processed food that doesn't come in plastic bags, that's found in nature the way it is, because that's another big source. Clothes. We love wearing synthetic clothes because they don't need ironing, they're low maintenance, but that traps plastic particles. So the more you can wear cotton and linen, the better off you are.
I just made this change too because I read an article. I'm telling you, my phone's listening to me. I read an article about sheets and how you're breathing in like that. So I went and got 100% organic cotton sheets.
Love it.
What are other ways that we can cut down on some of our microplastics?
So I would say the first and most important thing is kind of take an inventory or a survey of what types of things you're consuming during the day, what your daily life looks like, what cosmetics you're using, and that'll really help you to know whether or not you have plastics. When you're cooking food, so rice, for example, or even meat or fish, make sure you wash it 3 or 4 times because that actually gets rid of a lot of those plastics. When you're in your kitchen, I want you to think all the way from, the beginning when you're preparing the food all the way to the end when you're doing the dishes. Your sponge, your spatula, your nonstick cookware that's scratched, all of those are sources of plastics. You want to make sure that you have, if something looks worn in your kitchen, your spatula is starting to have a little crustiness on the edge because it's melted,
toss it.
Time to throw it out. Yeah. Don't warm your food in plastic containers. Don't even store it in plastic containers.
What?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Glass, you got to go to glass.
Glass.
Oh my
And then for kids, guys, all those little sippy cups, they're plastic.
Yeah.
And kids are even more susceptible to the plastic because they're smaller and their body sizes, and they can be more susceptible to risk. So try as much as you can glass and stainless steel.
You did all this for us on Earth Day, no less.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Dr. Coley, as always.